The article said the girl's name was Elizabeth Smoak, which is not exactly correct. The plaque in her honor also is incorrect, stating her name as Courtenay Elizabeth. I would just like to point out that her full name is Elizabeth Courtenay Smoak, and she was always known by Courtenay or Court. I thought that her correct name should at least be mentioned.
In the late 70s and early 1980s, LSU experiences a significant population increase. This is the time period in which LSU sort of earns its reputation as a big party school. Remember, this is before the drinking age is raised to 21, so essentially everyone on the campus is being advertised to by the bars and the alcohol companies. Drinking is okay on campus. It's the rise in Greek life and Greek culture at LSU, and so it starts to take shape in that way, and kind of as a departure from what LSU was prior to the 1960s. The student newspaper is reporting about the death of Courtenay Smoak. And it's nestled in with all of the bar and beer ads, which I find the comparison just a little jarring.
November 20th, 1984. LSU student booked in co-ed's hit-and-run death. Charles Burton Mullen Jr., 20, was booked into downtown jail on counts of negligent homicide, hit-and-run driving, and reckless operation of a motor vehicle. Miss Smoak was fatally injured about 2:40 a.m. Friday when a car drove over the North Mound and slammed into her as she and another student sat atop the mound. 2 a.m. Friday, Mullen and 6 passengers left a bar in a 1982 Pontiac J2000 and drove to LSU. Mullen veered off Dalrymple Drive, drove over the mound, and struck Miss Smoak. Freshman James Goodrum, 19, of Matthews, tried to push the victim out of the path of the hit-and-run driver. Miss Smoak died 7 hours later of massive trauma to the chest and abdomen.
June 7th, 1985. Driver in LSU Indian Mound death placed on probation. The driver of a car that struck and killed a co-ed on the Indian Mounds at LSU was put on 2 years probation after receiving a stern lecture from District Judge Bob Hester. "What you did was a childish, foolish act of gross negligence," Hester told Mullen during sentencing Thursday. He told Mullen that the greatest penalty he would face would be his own conscience, because he would have to live with the fact that a young girl was killed because of his actions.
To Mr. D. Gluck, Assistant Vice Chancellor. The Student Government Association would like to build a memorial for Lisa Smoak by the LSU Indian Mound. Which of the following ideas do you think is most appropriate? A podium-type structure with a plaque on top, a small sculpture in the area, or a memorial fountain?
It's one of these kind of crazy accidents that it sort of forces the individual to kind of throw up their hands and say, why does this thing happen? I think what you have to decide as the researcher is, what did they make of it, and did they do right?
Why do you think that so few people actually know about this case?
Students are here for such a short amount of time that, as awful as it is, something like this just it falls out of the collective memory. And so without the archives being put back together in this place to tell the story, it won't exist in the forefront of anyone's mind after a few years. It's just sort of the nature of the kind of temporary nature of being a student at a university after 4 years. The stories change, and because the people change. And so things like this are all too easily forgotten.
In a letter to the editor of the Reveille, Julie Jolissant Smoak writes that Courtney's name was miswritten in the State Times and was also miswritten on her memorial plaque. After stating the correction, she gives the following summary of Courtney's death.
She was a freshman at LSU and had just turned 18 when she was killed. The driver who killed her was drunk. He wasn't just a student doing things that all of the other students were doing at that time. After he ran over Courtenay and her date, who survived, he parked his car and watched as her date carried her horribly broken body to the campus police station. She never woke up after the accident and died shortly after her family made it to the hospital from Thibodeau. The man who killed her never paid any consequences for his actions. His life remained untouched.